We're going to talk about ways to find more comfort and more confidence overhead. So there's four main things that we want to dig into when we're thinking about overhead mobility. Hey, this is Dr. Tyler Calasi, physical therapist and strength coach. I'm here with my buddy Jake, that fit friend. And we're going to talk about ways to find more comfort and more confidence overhead. So there's four main things that we want to dig into when we're thinking about overhead mobility. First one is thoracic or mid-torso mobility. The second one is shoulder mobility. The third one is shoulder stability or overhead stability. And the last one is simply getting your shoulders stronger in a comfortable setup. So the first thing we're gonna go through is that thoracic mobility, the base of your shoulders. It's important that you can move well through your spine and your ribs in order for those shoulders to move well. So let's say Jake had an issue reaching up overhead. He couldn't quite get all the way. All right, we see he's got a limitation here, probably 20, 30 degrees. My first thought is going to be looking at thoracic mobility. So let's pretend that Jake doesn't have a lot of good movement here. He can't really extend his thoracic spine. That could be a prevention in him from getting all the way overhead. So let's try to expand that range of motion. What Jake is going to do, come here and sit here so your back is on this ball. If we had a foam roller, that would be ideal, but a med ball works pretty good. What I want you to do is put your hands behind your head first. Take a big breath in, and then exhale as you lean back. Now we want the ribs to move, we want the mid-spine to flex or extend, getting some good range of motion. Probably gonna run through that 5, 7, 10 times in a row, getting a nice stretch in the abdominals, along the ribs, even in the lats. Now what Jake was doing initially was putting his arms up overhead, which I would consider a progression. So take your arms and go up overhead, and now come back. This is the next step, getting a little extra range through the lats, through the shoulders, through the mid-back and the ribs. Same thing, 5 to 10 reps here. We got a good stretch in the thoracic spine, so let's move on to shoulder mobility. Good, take a rest there. So we saw that Jake was limited in getting all the way overhead. Now we don't know if it's because he just can't use his muscles to get there or his muscles are tight. We're going to assume that he does have the flexibility, his muscles don't want to take him there. So let's run through an exercise that's going to teach his muscles, his shoulders, his thoracic spine, how to be comfortable up overhead. So Jake, you're going to go down onto your stomach. We're going to do a drill that's called a prone W and a prone Y. So go ahead and make a W with your arms. All right. All you're going to do is just try to lift up all of your arms and pinch your shoulder blades together. Good. Come back down. Do that again for me. Good. Come back down. One more time. You can rest your forehead right on this if you want. Good. One more time, come up to the top. So if we see here, Jake's elbow is a little bit higher than his wrist, which tells me his shoulder doesn't quite want to get him into that external rotation. So let's do a drill to teach his shoulder how to be better at external rotation. What we're going to do, I'm going to take this, we're going to put it under your elbow. You can rest your forehead on this forearm. We basically made this a little bit easier for his shoulder by putting it into some relative internal rotation. Now Jake is going to try to lift his wrist and his hand up off, hold it for 5 seconds, 2, 3, 4, 5, come back down, good, come back up. Where do you feel this?
On the back of the shoulder.
Good, so right in those rotator cuff muscles that rotate the shoulder, this is teaching his brain and his muscles how to access that external rotation that's needed to be up overhead. Let's make it a little harder. So we're gonna take away the pad, take a little rest for a second. Now we're in kind of this neutral position, so he doesn't have any relative internal rotation to move from. Go ahead and lift that up. Ooh, a little bit harder, but he's still doing pretty good. It's already an improvement. His brain was already like, oh crap, I know how to do this now. Good. So let's make it a little bit harder. We're gonna put this under your wrist now. So now what we did, we put him to his end range external rotation, and we're gonna ask him to try to move slightly above that. Ooh, good. Good, come back down. Well, I want you to watch his midsection. Try not to move this, stay kind of relaxed. Activate your abdominals to keep your ribs kind of still. Good. Ooh, yeah, hold it. 3, 2, 1, good. So that's an external rotation, lift off. This is a great place for a lot of folks to start. Even if you don't know where you lie with shoulder external rotation, I would give it a try at each regression or progression and see how you do. Once we've done that, we're gonna actually try to use that shoulder external rotation and flexion in what's called a prone Y. So we did that prone W here. We're gonna do a prone Y here. where Jake is going to lay on his stomach with his arms out in a Y. Lifting up, same thing, holding for about 5 seconds, coming back down. A little bit of extension is okay because that's kind of natural. Now let's put them both together. Come down to a W, lift up, and then slide up to a Y. Ooh, yeah, good. And then come back down to the W. So what we're doing is teaching the thoracic spine, the shoulder blades, the shoulders, the core, how to work together to achieve a nice overhead position. Take a rest there, Jake, thank you. So the first two things that we talked about were thoracic or mid-torso mobility, flexibility, and shoulder flexibility and stability, right? We want to make sure that you can move well at your midsection. We want to make sure that your shoulders know how to access that external rotation and flexion that's needed to be overhead. Now that we've done that, let's teach the body how to be in control for prolonged periods of time that's needed to do repetitive repetitions overhead. So we're gonna keep it simple with just a simple overhead hold. I want you to get into a half kneeling position for me. We're gonna take that and go ahead and hold it up overhead. I like the half kneeling position. It's slightly easier than standing on 2 feet because you have a little bit wider of a base of support. You can talk about different contractions at the midsection to give you a better base. So I want you to really squeeze the glutes, really squeeze the core, and really drive that fist up until you touch my hand. Good. So the half kneeling position is a great place to start. 20 to 40 second holds at a weight that feels like an 8 out of 10 difficulty. Take a rest there. We would progress into this standing position. So go ahead and stand up, bring it up overhead. Same situation, trying to get some nice contraction at the glutes, a little bit of a contraction at the core. We don't want the ribs to flare, but it's okay if we have a little bit of movement here because we just tried to gain some movement here and it's natural for the shoulder and the thoracic spine to move together. So let's progress that one more step, and now you're gonna actually march a little bit. So come back up overhead. You can switch sides if you want. Let's really test this shoulder stability and endurance. Go ahead and march, trying to keep your body nice and still. So this is a good way to teach the brain how to stabilize at the shoulder when there's things happening in the environment. Good, I would probably do 5 to 10 steps each side, come down and take a rest. Nice, so we've done thoracic mobility, shoulder mobility, and then we did a little bit of shoulder stability. We also just need to get stronger overhead. Chances are, if you have shoulder pain, you're probably avoiding overhead strengthening. So some of this weakness is playing into your inability to be overhead. My favorite way to get stronger overhead when we have a limitation is a landmine press, all right? So we're gonna come over here to the landmine setup. Jake's gonna come back down into that half kneeling position. For sure, grab a pad to make it feel comfortable on the knee. We're gonna set up the landmine so that just like a dumbbell or a kettlebell, it's right near his shoulder. He's got some activation in his glutes and his belly going on. Jake, go ahead and just press it right up overhead. Come back down, do that about 5 or 7 times for me. You can see he's moving at an angle, which is really nice when you have limitations in shoulder mobility because we're not bumping into that restriction multiple reps in a row. It allows someone like Jake to do 8, 12, 15 reps in a row, really build up some nice shoulder strength, some core strength, so that he can just get stronger in order to be stronger overhead. Good, take a rest. So there you have it. If you want to feel more confident overhead, stronger overhead, my suggestions are look at your thoracic mobility, look at your shoulder mobility in a few different finite ways, get some shoulder stability with some overhead holds, and then find a way to press overhead that's not very irritating or aggravating by using something like the landmine press. Thanks to my buddy Jake. If you guys want to see more from Jake, head over to his YouTube channel, That Fit Friend, or the website,
thatfitfriend.com.
He's got a lot of great information on shoes, what shoes are the best for various types of lifting. He's also got a lot of good fitness information, so go ahead and check him out. If you like this video, comment below, hit the like button, and subscribe for more. Thanks, guys.